This is Marianne Bachmeier. She has just shot her little girl's abuser in the courtroom. This horrible act was committed in full view of everyone. But when it comes to being mean to their children, mothers will do anything. Today we look at 5 cases of mothers who took violent revenge on their children's abuser. Marianne Bachmeier. Marianne Bachmeier was a child born to a religious mother and a Nazi soldier in Sarstedt, a small town near Hildesheim in Lower Saxony, West Germany. She became pregnant twice when she was 16 and 18 years old, and those babies were subjected to adoption due to the homeless, unemployed, and ill-prepared to raise the baby. Marianne became pregnant for the 3rd time when she was 23 years old while working as a waitress in Lübeck, Germany. And this time, she decided to raise the baby as a single mother. She named her baby Anna, and this little Anna became the light of Marianne's life instantly. But guess fate just had other plans for this family. On May 5th, 1980, Marianne Bachmeier's life took a devastating turn. Anna argued with her mother about some matters. She decided to skip school and visit a friend who lived near her house. But she didn't know that her murderer was waiting on her way. The 35-year-old butcher, Klaus Grabowski, lured Anna into the apartment under the guise of playing with his cats and held her for several hours by molesting her. Finally, he murdered her using a pair of pantyhose belonging to his fiancée. When the 7-year-old daughter Anna went missing, the community rallied around Marianne, searching high and low for the little girl. Days turned into weeks, and hope began to fade. Then, the unimaginable happened. Anna's lifeless body was found. The police investigation led to the arrest of Klaus Grabowski, a man already known to authorities as a convicted sex offender. He had previously served time for the sexual abuse of 2 other young girls. Grabowski was taken into custody and charged with Anna's murder. The evidence against him was strong, and it seemed like justice would be served. On March 6, 1981, another court round was progressing against the brutal killer, Klaus, at the court premises. Marianne also was in the courtroom. Suddenly, she pulled out a .22 Beretta pistol, aimed at his back, and fired 8 times, giving an instant and scary death to her child's murder. The courtroom erupted into chaos. Security personnel rushed to restrain Marianne, and she was immediately arrested. The room was a mix of shock, horror, and for some, a sense of poetic justice. Marianne had taken the law into her own hands, and public opinion was divided. Some saw her as a hero, a mother who did what she felt she had to do. Others saw her actions as a dangerous precedent, undermining the legal system. Marianne Bachmeier was put on trial for murder. The case drew national attention, sparking debates about vigilante justice and the failures of the legal system to protect the innocent. During the trial, Marianne spoke openly about her actions. "I wanted to shoot him in the face. I hope he's dead," she told her after the murder, and her statement, "I did it for you, Anna," brought a very sensitive touch to the case. She also expressed her deep sense of betrayal by a system that allowed a man like Grabowski to walk free, only to harm again. Marianne was found guilty, but received a relatively lenient sentence of 6 years in prison, of which she served only 3. The judge acknowledged the exceptional circumstances of the case, and public opinion seemed to lean in her favor. And while Marianne Bachmeier passed away in 1996 from cancer, her story lives on. Miriam Rodriguez. Miriam Rodriguez is one of the Mexican human rights activists who took on the Zetas cartel. She spent several years tracking down her daughter's killers, one by one, until she was murdered on Mother's Day in 2017. Everything in her life was changed on the 23rd of January, 2014. Miriam's 20-year-old daughter, Karen Alejandra Salinas Rodriguez, was kidnapped at the San Francisco by the members of the Zetas cartel, who were known to kidnap people and use their ransoms to fund cartel operations. Now, Mrs. Rodriguez talked to the kidnappers on the phone, begging them to let Karen go while their walkie-talkie made random noises. They said they didn't have her daughter, but would help look for her if she paid $2,000. Mrs. Rodriguez paid him. A week later, he stopped picking up the phone. Other people called, saying they had kidnapped Karen and needed $500 more. The family didn't think it would bring Karen back, but they sent the money anyway. Each time they paid, Mrs. Rodriguez felt a little hope, but every time they couldn't get Karen back, she became more and more sad. Obtaining some information, Rodriguez found that her daughter, Karen, was killed. The local authorities were of little help, their efforts hampered by corruption and fear of the drug cartels that plagued the region. However, Mariam would not rest until hunting Karen's kidnappers. She slowly and carefully started to gather information about the ones involved. To be undetected, she cut her hair, dyed her hair red, donned an old uniform, and spoke to his neighbors under the guise of conducting a poll. She even infiltrated criminal gangs to get clues about her daughter's whereabouts. After years of searching, Miriam made a horrifying discovery. She found her daughter's remains in a clandestine grave. The culprits were members of the Zetas cartel, who had kidnapped and killed Karen. The grief was unbearable, but it fueled a new mission for Miriam, to bring her daughter's killers to justice. Miriam meticulously gathered evidence against each perpetrator involved in her daughter's kidnapping and murder. She identified them, tracked their movements, and provided crucial information to the authorities. One by one, the criminals were arrested and put behind bars. Due to her vigilante work, many cartel members left the cartel and attempted to start over as born-again Christians. Nonetheless, on May 10th, 2017, Miriam Rodriguez was shot dead outside her home. It was Mother's Day. The killers were suspected to be members of the same cartel she had fought so bravely against. The news of her death sent shockwaves through the community and the nation. Human rights organizations condemned the government's failure to protect her, especially given her high-profile activism against the cartels. Bonita Lynn Vela. The 35-year-old mother, Bonita Lynn Vela, sliced the penis of the man who had molested her 2-year-old son. The incident began when Vela suspected that her 2-year-old son had been molested by her daughter's 18-year-old boyfriend. Fueled by rage, Vela decided to confront the young man and instructed her daughter to invite him to the family's trailer in December 2013. The man arrived at around 3 a.m., and soon, Vela got to work. She held him captive and injured him for 3.5 hours. The young man repeatedly denied the molestation accusations, but the mother took a box cutter and cut the young man's penis. Vela was charged and ultimately pleaded guilty to battery and criminal confinement. Surprisingly, she managed to avoid jail time. A Johnson County judge did not sentence her to prison, leaving many to question the justice system's handling of the case. The incident, however, left the families involved in a state of turmoil. The young man had to deal with physical and emotional scars, while Vela had to live with the consequences of her actions. Her family, especially her daughter and young son, were caught in the crossfire of this disturbing event. Sarah Sands. Sarah Sands was a woman who made controversial headlines when she killed a convicted pedophile named Michael Plested. Sarah was a mother of 5 children, 3 of whom were young boys. In 2014, she discovered that her 3 sons had been sexually abused by Michael Plested, a 77-year-old man living in a neighboring block of flats in East London. Michael Plested was a convicted pedophile child predator who had changed his name from Robin Molt to hide his criminal past. At the time of his death, he was facing further charges of sexual offenses against young boys. However, when Sarah came to know of what Plested had done to her family, she took matters into her own hands. She went to Plested's home and stabbed him 8 times in what was later described as a determined and sustained attack. Plested bled to death as a result. Sarah Sands was subsequently arrested and went through a trial at the Old Bailey in 2015. She was convicted of manslaughter based on loss of control and was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. She had been released after only 4, though. Sarah Sands' sons, particularly Bradley, who was 20 at the time, expressed their support for their mother's actions. Bradley said, "I thought hats off when he learned that his mother had attacked Plested. The sons felt safer knowing that their abuser was no longer a threat, and they waived their right to anonymity to tell their story." Lupe Mercado. After knowing the intention of selling her 17-year-old daughter, the mother of the daughter, Lupe Mercado killed her 22-year-old boyfriend, Calvin Sneed, with her husband Barry Laprelle Gilton. At very first, they tried to get their daughter to sever ties with her boyfriend, but they witnessed that man take their daughter, and later they discovered that he had the intent to sell her. They tried to get help from the police and child services, but it was not a successful attempt to refuse their daughter. The parents then allegedly followed Sneed from Southern California back to San Francisco. Near Candlestick Park, they found their opportunity. Sneed was shot and killed, and the couple was later arrested and charged with murder. The prosecution argued that they had hunted down Sneed to kill him, while the defense portrayed Lupe as a frantic mother trying to save her daughter from a life of sexual exploitation.